Hi, this is TheHande Mäkinen, and people might know me as a bit of a Monkey Island fan. Here it comes, here it comes. I'm all at Twitter. Best title screen ever. And some of you might even be aware that a new Monkey Island game happened to come out last year, although I got to play it fairly late. And once I did get to play it, one of the things that I immediately noticed is that the game's villain, LeChuck, had his voice actor changed for the game, which was a bit disappointing, but unfortunately I then discovered, of course, that the reason why LeChuck was recast was because his longtime actor, Earl Boen, unfortunately passed away earlier this year due to cancer. Now, I've been meaning to make a video about voice acting stuff for a while now. People might even remember that I used to be a bit of an aspiring voice actor myself. So I finally decided that let's finally get around to talking about the Monkey Island voice actors, specifically today focusing on the 5 characters who have appeared in all 6 games of the series, and talking about all the various actors who have played these particular roles. So in this video, I'll be focusing on the main character trio of Guybrush, Elaine, LeChuck, as well as the Voodoo Lady and Stan the Salesman. And let's start with the man, the legend himself, Guybrush Threepwood, which is the only one of today's characters who has always been voiced by the same actor, that actor being Dominic Armato. Armato has been the voice of Guybrush since 1997, or more specifically, The Curse of Monkey Island. And it was not a coincidence that he wound up getting the part, because Armato was actually a bit of a Monkey Island fanboy long before he actually got cast in the role.
Hi, my name's Guybrush Threepwood, and I want to be a pirate.
He has mentioned in several interviews that he used to play The Secret of Monkey Island on his Sega CD, and when his agent asked which specific role he would like to play if he had the chance, he specifically mentioned how he wanted to play Guybrush if that role ever became available, and lucky for him, starting from the 3rd game onward, the game started having voiceovers. Now, Monkey Island 1 and 2 did not have voice acting during their original release, but of course Dominic would then go on to reprise his role in the remakes of the first 2 games, as well as the 3 subsequent sequels that would follow Curse of Monkey Island. But if you go and look at his IMDb profile, you will notice that there is actually not a whole lot more regarding his voice acting credentials. And this is because, unfortunately, Dominic Armato suffered from what I like to call the adventure game curse when it came to being cast in the role of the lead of an adventure game. This is the same fate that I think has befallen fellow adventure game voice actor Rolf Saxon, better known as the voice of George Stobart, who, despite having a fairly broad array of minor movie roles and television roles, has never really been recognized for any other part other than playing the lead character in the Broken Sword titles. And similarly, Dean Erickson, the second actor to play Gabriel Knight in the FMV-heavy second game, actually only has one other acting credit because, unfortunately, his agent quit while he was making the game, and as a result, he was forced to find other employment. In Dominic's case, voicing Guybrush was a bit of a boon for him because it immediately put him in the good books of LucasArts, and as a result, he would be called upon to voice act as a bunch of characters in a number of Star Wars games. He, for instance, did the voice of C-3PO in one game, but for whatever reason, he was never able to get more steady work from outside the LucasArts establishment. Which seems bizarre because if you've ever heard the guy's demo tape, which is on YouTube, Dominic clearly had the chops to do the voices of several more characters. But unfortunately, I guess this is just a testament to how competitive the voice acting scene was in the late 90s and early 2000s. Basically, after his second appearance in Escape from Monkey Island, Armato effectively quit voice acting and actually went into the restaurant business, and naturally after that into the food critic business, and actually served as the official food critic for the Arizona Republic for several years, before finally hanging his hat on that profession as well. But, as has been stated, Dominic definitely solidified his reputation as Guybrush already in his first 2 game appearances, which is why he was asked to come back for the special editions as well as Tales of Monkey Island, when those games were coming out between 2009 and 2010.
Prepare to meet your frosty carbonated maker, LeChuck.
In fact, while making the special edition of voiceovers, Armato apparently gained the nickname One Take Dom because apparently he just knew the character's lines so well he was able to get through most of Guybrush's dialogue without the need for any additional takes. Next up is Guybrush's love interest and eventual wife in the games, Elaine. Now, just like Guybrush, Elaine first had a voice actor in the third game, The Curse of Monkey Island, and that voice actress was Alexandra Boyd, who has voiced the character in all except one of the games, with the one exception surprisingly being Escape from Monkey Island. Boyd, as you can probably tell, is a British actress who, at the time of making of Curse of Monkey Island, was trying to make a career for herself in the United States. But apparently this did not really pan out, and as a result, not long after voicing Elaine in The Curse of Monkey Island, she moved back to her home country of Great Britain, which is the reason why the role got recast for the next game in the series. And for those of you who don't understand how living in a different country would prevent you from voicing the same character, bear in mind that this was before broadband, and before there was an easy way to transfer high-quality audio files over the Atlantic, which is why LucasArts did not try particularly hard to get Boyd to reprise her role for the second game. However, after the Monkey Island franchise returned from its nearly decade-long hiatus with the special editions, most likely due to heavy fan demand, Boyd was finally recast as Elaine for the fifth game, as well as the special editions of the Monkey Island games. One thing, however, that you will definitely notice if you listen to her voice in Curse and compare it to her voice in the later games, is that Boyd's voice has definitely aged a bit between games.
How many times do I have to tell you, LeChuck? I just don't feel that way about you.
Tell me, Guybrush, why do you want to be a pirate? You don't look like one. Your face is too sweet.
Oh, Guybrush. Now stop LeChuck or we're all dead.
But as a counterpoint, Elaine has barely 10 lines of dialogue in her very first voiced appearance. And I think she definitely established herself as the character much better in those later games where she had way more dialogue and was therefore able to put a lot more personality into Elaine's voice. Now, the voice performance of Elaine in Escape from Monkey Island is one of many things that tends to get a very mixed response from the Monkey Island fan community, not the least because Elaine mysteriously changes accents in that particular game. In Escape from Monkey Island, Elaine was voiced by Charity James, and for whatever reason, in this game, Elaine happens to speak not with a British but instead an American accent, which is made all the more noticeable by the simple fact that Elaine just had way more dialogue in Escape from Monkey Island. Now, first of all, I think it's worthy of pointing out that I don't blame Charity James for the inconsistency in Elaine's accent. The responsibility for that one obviously lies with the voice director for this game, who, for whatever reason, apparently did not bother checking what Elaine sounded like in the previous game. And also, I don't personally think that Charity James's performance in the game is particularly bad or anything. On the contrary, I think James gave Elaine a lot of personality in this game.
Guybrush! Stop daydreaming and make yourself useful!
Where is everyone?
Maybe everyone went to bed early?
Where's the welcoming committee? The banners? The crushing throng of well-wishers? Little snaggle cakes.
Hey, Elaine. Could you untie me?
But yeah, it obviously bothers me as well why Elaine just doesn't seem to have her natural accent in this game. Charity James, for her own part, is a very good and established voice actress, and I happen to have personal affection for her because she was also the voice of another recognizable adventure game character. For Escape from Monkey Island, she voiced Grace Nakimura in the third and my personal favorite of the Gabriel Knight games, where she was one of the playable characters, and therefore you got to hear her voice a lot in that game as well.
Damn, I thought we had a case.
We do.
Well, Prince James let you go.
Yeah, that's his prerogative.
Wait, but if the kidnappers weren't the night visitors...
Who says they weren't? I saw them.
But as I've stated already, most Monkey Island fans obviously preferred Boyd's performance from the previous game, which is why she's been able to then come back in the role multiple times since. Now let's talk about the character who sort of inspired this video to begin with, and that is the ghost zombie demon pirate LeChuck, the villain of the Monkey Island series. Now, for the vast majority of the games, LeChuck's voice actor, as I mentioned, has been the actor Earl Boen, but besides him, there are actually 3 other actors who have also voiced the character. Now, if there's a few of you who feel like you've definitely seen his face somewhere before, it's true that Boen actually has acted both not just as a voice actor, but also in live action, and he did play the minor role of Dr. Silverman in the first 3 Terminator movies. This is the on-screen role that a lot of people tend to bring up when talking about Boen. But in fact, in recent years, I've started to feel like just throwing up his cameo appearance in 3 Schwarzenegger movies is kind of doing the man an injustice, because Boen actually had an incredibly extensive voice acting career that most people seem to be completely unaware of. You go look at his IMDb profile, almost the vast majority of his roles were voice roles. And I think, unfortunately, just like Armato, he just never really got the recognition for it, except for playing this one character, which is LeChuck. And I have to say, Boen is also my personal favorite actor in the role. The great thing about Boen is that he had a very menacing sounding voice, but at the same time, because LeChuck is a bit of a silly villain, he was able to harness a little bit of cartoony energy into the mix, thus giving out what I think is quite possibly his best voice performance from anything.
There's nothing like the hot winds of hell blowing in your face. Darn your riddles, you saucy female! What do you mean?
Boen and Armato did get recast for the first 3D game in the series, Escape from Monkey Island, but between the long gap between Escape and the eventual special editions and Tales, Boen, who was quite old at the time already, actually had formally retired from acting. However, the development crew for Monkey Island special editions felt it was so important to get the iconic voice of LeChuck into the game, so they basically talked Boen to come out of retirement. Boen, unlike Armato, has never given a lot of interviews about his involvement with the Monkey Island series, so unfortunately I don't know if he was ever that fond of the character, but I have to imagine that he had some amount of pride involved with it in order to, come out of retirement to do the role specifically. However, in the Tales of Monkey Island games, people immediately noticed that Boen did not do the role. And the reason for this is probably that while Telltale Games was obviously able to pull some of the iconic voice actors like Boyd and Armato, thanks to their affiliation with Lucasfilms, in Bowen's case they clearly made the decision to just recast the roles because it was just easier than trying to talk him into making 5 more episodes in an episodic adventure game. So initially, LeChuck would be voiced in the game by Adam Harrington and Kevin Blackton. The reason for 2 voice actors is that Adam Harrington did LeChuck's voice in the first episode when he was in his zombie form, and Kevin Blackton then performed the role in the other episodes where he is temporarily turned back to human. Of the 2 performances, I think Blackton's was easily the better one because it actually sounded very close to Earl Bowen's, except quite a less more spooky because, after all, he was supposed to be a human.
My boy, if I wanted to murder you, I'd just throw you off this cliff. Why wait for you to sleep?
But I don't think there was anything wrong with Adam Harrington's performance either. He was a bit more throaty, definitely, but I think he did a good job. However, once again, fans did notice the sudden change in voice actors, so Telltale eventually decided to get Boen back in the booth again, and got him to reprise LeChuck's voice once again in the 4th and final episodes. Also, in the physical release, he also replaced Adam Harrington's performance in episode 1, which I frankly thought was a little bit unfair. Now, as I mentioned, Boen unfortunately did not reprise his role in Return to Monkey Island, and the reason was probably due to his poor health at this point. So the voice got recast with another actor who had previously been in the Monkey Island games, and that actor was Jess Harnell, who played the shopkeeper in The Secret of Monkey Island Special Edition. Now, all due respect to Harnell, I do believe they could have maybe picked somebody else, because his LeChuck voice literally just sounded like his shopkeeper voice, which I found kind of distracting throughout the game.
I guess I could hike all the way over there. Once! Be right back. And don't touch anything!
Just put it where Threepwood won't get it.
Like where?
I don't care! Use your imagination!
Not to say his performance was bad by any means, but I'm just saying it was kind of a weird choice. Next up, we come to the Voodoo Lady, who, funny enough, did not even get that name until much, much later, officially, I think, the 4th game. Now, much like Alexandra Boyd, Voodoo Lady has been voiced by a single actress in all except one of the games, and that actress is Leilani Jones. Adventure game fans, again, might even recognize that name because she was the voice of Molly Ageti in the first Gabriel Knight game, that is to say, Gabriel's love interest in the game. Leilani Jones first did the role in The Curse of Monkey Island, eventually with quite a bit more gusto, I would add, until the voice chilled out a bit for Escape from Monkey Island.
Who are you, and how did you just appear like that?
I am one gifted with a second sight, adept at manipulating the forces of nature for the benefit of all who enter my door.
You're a fashion consultant.
Well, yes, but that's not what I was referring to.
You seem to show up whenever I'm in trouble. Why?
Who can say? Perhaps it's because we share an unspoken magical bond. Perhaps the fates have intertwined our destinies. Or maybe I've got an unbreakable 5-game deal with LucasArts.
And like Boyd, Armato, and Boen, she would return to reprise the role for the Monkey Island Special Editions, and she also redid the voice for Return to Monkey Island, where she also got to voice Carla's Swordmaster, a role she inherited in the Special Editions from actress Pamela Tyson, who for some reason did not return for the Special Editions, having first voiced Carla in Escape from Monkey Island. So from all of that, you have probably already picked out that the one game where Leilani Jones did not perform as the Voodoo Lady was in Tales from Monkey Island, where her role was taken over by Allison Ewing. Now again, I'm not entirely sure why Leilani Jones was not recast, because unlike Boen, she wasn't even retired at this point, but rather had been doing voiceover work for the past couple of years, although I will admit a bit more intermittently. However, I will say Ewing actually did a really good job matching the tone and tenor of Leilani Jones's performance. But again, somewhat mysteriously, Ewing actually performed the Voodoo Lady's voice with the slightest Caribbean accent, which is something that Jones never did. She always performed the Voodoo Lady with her natural American accent.
Now that LeChuck has been destroyed, the cutlass must be ritually dismantled in a soul-chilling voodoo ceremony to ensure that his evil never reawakens.
My mind-reading skills tell me it is your future you are interested in. Are you certain this is something you really wish to know?
People might also remember that the Tales version of the Voodoo Lady was a little bit more, thirsty. But nevertheless, I do think Ewing did a decent job with her voice. Unfortunately, Ewing seems to have not had a very extensive voice acting career after her appearance in Tales of Monkey Island. And one thing that all of you have probably already noticed, that she herself is not black, which unfortunately means that it's kind of unlikely that she'll ever get to reprise the role. Then finally, we come to Stan S. Stanman, who has no fewer than 3 voice actors, and unfortunately, in Stan's case, I also think there has been a considerable lack of consistency in the voice performances over the years. Now, not to say that Stan's personality has changed radically from game to game. On the contrary, that is the one thing that the various array of writers that the Monkey Island series has had have managed to keep consistent throughout the time. I'm saying that between the character's first 2 voiced appearances, 2 very different performance styles emerged from Stan, and this is why the character may sound quite radically different depending on which games you end up playing. Now, if you played the Monkey Island Special Editions of the first 2 games, or The Curse of Monkey Island, then you're in luck because Stan was voiced by the same actor in all 3 games, that actor being Pat Pinney. Pinney, like a lot of the actors from The Curse of Monkey Island and Escape from Monkey Island, was asked to reprise the role, most likely because fans really liked him so much, but since then he has kind of mysteriously disappeared from the Monkey Island voice acting roster, and as you have already noticed, he did not in fact do Stan's voice in Escape from Monkey Island, where the voice was actually done by a different Pat, in this case, Pat Fraley. If the name sounds somewhat familiar to you, Pat Fraley was the voice of Krang in the 80s and 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. In fact, he is one of 3 TMNT alumni in the voice cast of Escape. Fraley's performance is very noticeably different from Pinney's because while Pinney was able to do the high-energy, fast-talking salesman shtick, the register of his voice is noticeably lower than Fraley's, while Fraley's was a little bit more nasally and higher up, which is why the performances seem a little bit different if you go between those 2 games.
Nonsense! This is one of Stan's cozy crypts, all equipped with a patented secure lock release mechanism. Just jiggle the handle there.
Seriously, no money in it anymore. It just dried up.
Why?
All my clients were dying and becoming ghosts just to collect on their policies.
Now, because Pinney was recast in the special editions, that seems to have solidified his voice as the de facto Stan's voice. But then the Tales of Monkey Island crew once again went off on their own direction. They had to cast Stan for the 4th episode of Tales of Monkey Island, in which case the part went to actor Gavin Hammond. And when you listen to Hammond's performance, it definitely sounds like he was channeling Pat Fraley's performance a lot more. with Stan having a nasally but not quite as throaty of a voice as Fraley.
Where's that incompetent prosecutor?
Right here, Your Honor. Sorry I'm late, Your Eminence, but old Stan had to in flagrante his delicto. And there was a line in the washroom. Hey, Stan. You gotta get me out of here, son. I can't do 10 years.
But essentially, the performance is a lot more consistent with how the character talked in Escape from Monkey Island. And Hammond has actually managed to reprise the role in Return to Monkey Island, where he actually played a very significant part in the game's story. So there you go. You might have noticed that I didn't talk nearly as much about the later two voices because their voice acting escapades are a lot more well known, and I didn't delve much into other characters like Murray or Wally.
I am Murray, the invincible demonic skull,
who have always managed to maintain their own voice actors. Tell me, if you enjoyed this video, I might do more on the Monkey Island series or just about voice actors in general. I'm TheHande back in, and see you on the next one.